Elias Carter never thought his name would be spoken in the Grand Council of Worlds. He was not a captain, not a diplomat, not a famous scientist. He was just an engineer on New Solus, a quiet human colony near the edge of Alliance space. His work was fixing oxygen pumps, repairing water systems, and making sure families on the colony had power at night. But one morning, everything changed. It began with a soft chime on his console. A message glowed on the screen. At first, Elias thought it was just another repair request, but the header made him freeze. It read, "Official notice. Interstellar Alliance marriage selection, human representative chosen." Elias stared at the words, not breathing for a few seconds. He rubbed his eyes, thinking it might be a mistake. People like him were never chosen for such things. But the message was clear. His name, his ID, his location. Within hours, 2 officials from the colony administration were at his door. One was a woman in a silver uniform. The other was a tall man with the Alliance emblem on his chest. Elias Carter. The man said, "You have been selected for a diplomatic union with the Virathi delegation." Elias blinked. "The what?" The woman smiled carefully, as if choosing her words. "The Virathi. They are one of the most private species in the Alliance. They have offered a marriage bond with humanity. You've been chosen as the partner." Elias let out a nervous laugh. "You must be joking." But they weren't. The mysterious Virathi were known throughout the galaxy. But no one outside their world truly knew them. They lived behind shimmering veils, wore cloaks that hid their forms, and spoke through strange harmonic tones. No one had ever seen their faces. Some said they were terrifying. Some said they were made of mist. Others said they were simply shy. But their technology was powerful. Their knowledge of energy fields and space travel was centuries ahead. A marriage alliance with them was not just a personal event. It was history, and they had made an unusual demand. The human partner must not see the Virathi until their wedding night. Elias had many questions. "Why me?" he asked. "I'm just an engineer," because the woman said gently. "The Virathi didn't choose a politician. They didn't want a soldier or a noble. Their scans selected you based on compatibility or emotional profile, your honesty, your patience. They asked for someone simple. Human." That word sat heavily in his chest. Human departure a week later. Elias found himself leaving the only home he'd ever known. The transport ship was sleek, white, and silent. His few belongings fit in one small case. He looked out the window as the blue curve of New Solus grew smaller and disappeared into the stars. He felt both tiny and important at the same time. During the journey, an AI assistant explained everything. You will communicate with the Virathi bride only through audio. She will send you harmonic messages and vocal recordings. You may reply freely. The wedding will take place on the Celestial Concord, a neutral station. Elias nodded. Still unsure how he'd ended up here then. One night, as the stars slid silently outside the viewport, he heard it for the first time, her voice. First contact hit came through the communication panel, soft, melodic hum that slowly formed into words. "Hello, Elias Carter," the voice said. It was clear, gentle, musical. Not quite human, but beautiful in a strange way. Elias swallowed. Hello." There was a pause, then a light laugh. "You sound surprised?" "Well," Elias admitted, "I've never talked to someone I'm supposed to marry without meeting them first." Another laugh, warm this time. "Neither have I." They talked for hours. She told him she lived in a place of light and silence. She said she had studied human music and found it fascinating. Elias told her about New Solus, the dusty red soil, the wind turbines, the tiny diner that sold the best fried bread in the colony. She listened with soft hums, as if storing every detail like a precious gem. Growing closer days turned into weeks as the ship made its slow way to the Concord station. Every night, Elias returned to the comm panel, and every night she was there. He still didn't know what she looked like. All communication from the Virathi came with a soft shimmer on the screen, hiding any visual data. But he knew her voice. She had a way of speaking that made everything sound important. When Elias told her about his childhood, how he built a kite from scraps of cloths, she whispered, "That is a story worth remembering." When he told her he was nervous, she replied softly, "So am I, but that means we care." Elias had never met anyone like her. By the third week, he found himself waiting eagerly for their talks. She taught him some of her language to not words, but tones. Verithy's speech was half music. He learned how to say simple things. "Hello, I am listening, thank you." When he tried the words, she laughed happily. "You sound like starlight trying to sing," she said. Elias laughed. "Is that good?" "It's beautiful. It's the veil of the unknown." But as the wedding drew closer, questions grew louder in his mind. What was she hiding behind that veil? What if the stories were true? What if the Virathi were terrifying? What if he couldn't look at her without fear? And more than that, what if she saw him and was disappointed? He had asked once gently, "Why can't we see each other before the wedding?" Her voice became softer then, like a quiet night. "It is our way. We believe the heart must hear before the eyes can judge. If we begin with sight, we may never see what truly matters." Elias didn't fully understand, but he respected it. Her voice had a weight of tradition, like someone carrying a star on their shoulders. Arrival at Celestial Concord finally, after 43 days in transit. The ship approached Celestial Concord, a shining ring of light floating in orbit around a warm white star. The station was neutral ground for the most important treaties in the galaxy. From the window, Elias saw ships from a dozen different species docked along the outer ring. Each was shaped differently, some like long needles, some like spirals, some glowing like crystal birds, the AI informed him. Virathi delegation is already present. Wedding scheduled in 4 days. 4 days. He felt his stomach twist. He spent the first day exploring the human sector. Everywhere he went, he felt eyes on him. People whispered as he passed. He was the human marrying the Virathi. Some looked curious. Some looked worried. Some just stared. That night her voice came through again. "Are you afraid?" she asked gently. Elias took a deep breath. "Yes, so am I," she whispered. But fear is the beginning of courage. The vow ceremony 2 days before the wedding, there was the vow ceremony, a formal ritual. It was the first time both delegations were in the same place, though, still separated by the ceremonial veil. Elias walked into the Hall of Stars wearing a simple dark suit. Across the room stood the Virathi bride, covered entirely in flowing silver fabric that shimmered like water. He couldn't see her face, only the faint outline of a tall, graceful figure. The air was silent except for soft tones played by hidden instruments. A council elder spoke. "This union represents the bridge between species. Before sight comes trust. Before form comes understanding." Then both Elias and the veiled figure placed their hands on a glowing sphere at the center of the room. The sphere pulsed with warm light. It was not a contract of power, but of connection. The sphere translated heart rhythms, tones, and emotional signatures. It confirmed they were compatible, not just biologically, but emotionally. When their palms met the sphere, it glowed brighter. A soft chime echoed through the hall. The elder smiled. The bond is true. Late-night talks that night, Elias couldn't sleep. His room was quiet, but his heart was loud. He sat by the panel and whispered, "Are you awake?" A soft tone answered, "Always." Elias smiled in the dark. "Tomorrow is the big day." "Yes," she said. "Tomorrow you will see me, and I will see you. Do you think it will change us?" There was a long pause. Then she said something he would never forget. "Sight may show what is outside," she said softly, "but your voice already showed me who you are inside. That cannot change." Elias stared at the ceiling. No one had ever spoken to him like that. He felt his chest warm, like light filling an empty room. The wedding day. The next morning, the station woke early. Journalists from across the galaxy sent broadcasts. Delegations prepared formal clothes. The hall was decorated with silver banners and floating lanterns. It looked like a field of stars. Elias put on the formal suit prepared for him, dark navy. embroidered with tiny lights that looked like constellations. When he looked in the mirror, he almost didn't recognize himself. A soft knock at the door. It was the same woman who had first delivered the news on New Solace. "Are you ready?" Elias laughed nervously. "No, but I guess I have to be." She smiled kindly. "Remember, you were chosen for who you are. That's enough." The ceremony, the wedding ceremony, was held in the Great Duma, vast, transparent chamber with the stars shining directly above. The floor was smooth like glass. Light traveled along the walls like rivers. Elias walked down the central path. Across from him stood the Varathi bride, still covered in that silver veil. Her figure shimmered softly, like sunlight underwater. 1,000 beings from different worlds watched in silence. Some floated, some sat, some flickered with light. The elder's voice echoed gently. "Two souls meet not through sight but through trust. May their union bring light between worlds." Elias reached out his hand. She did the same. Their hands met between them, separated only by the veil. A pulse of warmth spread through his skin. Her hand was not cold, not warm, just alive in a way he had never felt. The elder placed the ceremonial sphere above their joined hands. It glowed white. "Do you accept the bond?" "I do," Elias said, voice steady. A soft tone answered, "I do." The hall filled with light. The moment before the reveal after the vows, they were led through a corridor toward the private chamber prepared for them, a traditional part of the Varathi union. It was not about possession or ownership. It was about first sight. Every step made Ilias's heart beat louder. He thought of every conversation, every laugh, every soft whisper through the cum panel. She was a mystery, but she was also his partner. When the doors to the chamber slid open, soft blue light spilled out. The room was silent and warm. A single silver curtain stood in the center. Beyond it, her daughter Elias stopped. She spoke softly from behind the curtain. "Elias," she said, "are you afraid?" He took a breath. "Yes, but I'm ready." Then she whispered, "Step forward." Elias felt the universe hold its breath as he walked toward the curtain. Elias stood in the quiet room, his heart beating fast like the rhythm of a drum. The soft blue light of the chamber wrapped around him like mist. A single silver curtain stood in the center, dividing him from the mysterious Varathi bride. All their long talks, the music they shared, the quiet laughter it had led to this moment. He had imagined her face 1,000 times. Sometimes he saw a woman with kind eyes. Sometimes he saw light. Sometimes he couldn't imagine anything at all. Now there was no more imagining. It was time to see the truth. Her voice came softly from behind the curtain. It was calm, warm, like it had always been. "Elias," she whispered, "I am ready if you are." He closed his eyes for a moment and breathed deeply. His fingers trembled. But there was no fear now, only the heavy feeling of stepping into something new. "I'm ready," he said. First sight, the curtain slid aside without a sound. A soft light poured out, not like any lamp or sun he had ever seen. It was alive. Elias stared. The Varathi bride was not made of flesh or metal. She was made of light. Her body shimmered like thousands of tiny stars floating together, forming a tall, elegant shape. Her face was soft and shifting, like light bending through water. She had no fixed eyes or mouth, yet Elias felt her looking at him, warm, curious, kind. The silver veil that had once covered her lay on the floor. Elias forgot to breathe. She wasn't what he expected at all. She wasn't like any being he'd ever seen. She was something entirely new. She spoke again, her voice flowing from the glowing form. "This is me." Elias took a step forward slowly. The light around her brightened a little, like a smile. He tried to find words. None were big enough. Beautiful. She tilted her head slightly, the stars around her shifting in a soft ripple. "You're not afraid?" Elias shook his head. "I was afraid of not understanding. But I understand now. You are light. But also you." Her glow pulsed gently. It was like a heartbeat made of starlight. The truth of the Varathish took a small step closer. The light didn't burn. It didn't hurt. It felt warm, like standing under a soft sun. For centuries, she said, the Varathi have hidden their forms. Not because we are dangerous, but because our appearance is different. Many species are afraid of what they do not understand. Elias nodded slowly. He understood. The unknown often scared people more than anything else. She continued, we live as light. We change shape with time. We are never one form for long. When other species first saw us, they called us ghosts. Some called us monsters. So we hid behind veils. We learned to speak through music instead of faces. Elias listened carefully. Her voice was calm but carried a quiet weight, like a long story finally being told. Then why me? He asked softly. Why now? Because, she said, we watched humanity. You travel the stars, not with fear, but with hope. You build homes on empty worlds. You talk to strangers. You share your songs. You make mistakes, but you keep reaching out. That is why we chose a human. Her glowing face tilted, as if smiling. And when we searched, we found your voice. Elias? Honest? Simple? Warm? He laughed softly, almost shy. I'm just an engineer. And yet she whispered, you listened. The light touch she lifted her hand, or what looked like a hand. It was made of small streams of glowing particles. Slowly, she moved it closer to him. Elias hesitated only a second before lifting his hand too. When their hands met, there was no solid touch. Instead, her light flowed around his skin like warm water. A soft hum filled the air. Elias felt something he could not explain. A quiet connection that wasn't made of words. It felt like she was showing him her feelings directly. Curiosity, trust, and something new. I can feel your heartbeat, she said softly. It's fast. Elias smiled nervously. Yeah, I guess I'm excited, she laughed. It wasn't a sound like human laughter, it was a ripple of music. Soft and bright. I have waited my whole life for this, she said. To be seen as I am. Human Song. Elias sat down slowly on the soft floor of the chamber, still holding her light in his hand. She lowered herself too, her glowing shape bending gracefully beside him. He remembered something from their long talks on the ship. She had loved human songs. She once said she dreamed of hearing one not through a speaker, but from a real human voice. So Elias began to hum softly. It was an old earth tune his mother used to sing to him when he was little. Simple, slow, like stars drifting. The light around the room shifted in color as she listened. Her body echoed the melody in glowing patterns. She was singing back, but not with words, with light. For a few moments there was no difference between them. Human and Varathi. Voice and light. Two beings just sharing something beautiful. When the song ended, the chamber was silent. Her voice was soft, almost like a breath. You gave me something I never had before. What? Elias asked. A memory that belongs to both of us. A new bond. Their wedding bond wasn't just legal or political. It was something older, something real. Two people, two species, choosing to trust. In Varathi tradition, true marriage was not when the vows were spoken, but when the couple shared their first light. She opened her hands, and tiny streams of glowing particles floated into the air, swirling gently. They are called memory lights, she said. Each light holds a moment from our lives. If you accept, I will share them with you. Elias watched the floating lights. They shimmered like tiny stars. He reached out slowly, letting one touch his fingertip. The moment it touched him, he saw flashes in his mind, not pictures but feelings. The warmth of a Varathi sun, the quiet of their crystal cities, the sound of their music drifting through empty air. It was like seeing through her heart. He gasped softly. This is incredible. She smiled through the glow. Now you know me. Elias looked into the swirling light and whispered, then let me share something too. He closed his eyes. In Varathi culture, sharing feelings didn't need technology. It just needed openness. Elias thought of his childhood on New Solace. running barefoot through the red dust, fixing his first machine, laughing with friends, looking at the stars and wondering what was out there. The lights around them shifted again, this time glowing with warm orange and soft blue. She was seeing him too. The first embrace, she leaned closer, and the light wrapped gently around him, not like a trap, but like a hug made of starlight. He felt warmth against his skin and a soft hum in his chest. "I didn't think a human would accept me," she whispered. "Most would look and turn away." Elias smiled softly. "I don't want to turn away. I want to understand." Her light brightened, like a sun rising. "Then we are truly bonded." Outside the chamber, the galaxy waited for news of the most mysterious marriage in the Alliance. But inside, two souls simply held each other, one of flesh and one of light. Outside the chamber later that night, the door slid open slowly. The Alliance officials stood outside, waiting. Journalists were broadcasting live. Delegates from dozens of species whispered, trying to imagine what might have happened inside. Elias stepped out first. His face was calm, glowing with the soft reflection of her light that still lingered around him. Behind him, the Verithy bride floated forward. For the first time in centuries, she did not wear a veil. The room fell silent. The light around her shimmered softly, not as a weapon, but as a gentle promise. Someone whispered, "She's beautiful." Someone else said, "I thought they were monsters." Elias held her light hand proudly and said in a clear voice, "You were all wrong. She is not a monster. She is my partner." The station erupted in quiet murmurs. Some species stared in awe. Others lowered their heads in respect. And slowly, one by one, the whispers changed from fear to wonder. A new understanding in the days that followed. The news spread across the stars. Human marries Verithy without veil. Story filled every broadcast, every news feed, every corner of the galaxy. For the first time in generations, the Verithy didn't hide. More of them began to appear on stations, not with veils, but with soft, glowing forms. And something strange happened. Other species didn't turn away. They came closer. They asked questions. They learned Elias and his bride, who now let him call her by her true name. Larabi became a symbol of a new kind of alliance. Not built on power, but on trust. Lyra loved exploring the human sector of the station. She liked how humans decorated their halls with old photographs and plants. She liked human jokes, even when she didn't fully understand them. And she loved their music. Elias showed her everything: how to eat soft fruit, how to ride a lift, how to laugh at bad jokes. In return, Lyra showed him how to hear starlight, how to see sound, how to feel the language of her people. Building a future weeks passed. They moved into a small habitat on the edge of the Concord station, where humans and Verithy engineers worked together. Lyra helped redesign power systems using Verithy energy fields. Elias built small tools to translate human speech into light tones. Together, they solved problems faster than anyone expected. Their teamwork became a model. Soon, human and Verithy teams began building shared cities on neutral planets. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of their small home, Elias looked at the stars. "Do you ever regret showing them who you are?" he asked softly. Lyra floated beside him, her light brushing his shoulder gently. "No, because I showed you first, and you didn't run," Elias smiled. "I never wanted to." The council's speech months later, Elias and Lyra were invited to speak before the Grand Council of Worlds. The hall was huge, filled with thousands of beings from hundreds of species. The council speaker said, "This marriage has changed how we see each other." "Speak your truth," Elias stepped forward. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't used to speeches. But he spoke with the same honesty that had brought him here in the first place. "When I first heard her voice," he said, "I didn't know who she was. But I listened. I trusted what I felt. When I saw her for the first time, I saw light. Not fear. Light. We are different, but that difference is not a wall. It's a bridge." Lyra stood beside him, her light glowing brighter than ever. She spoke in her musical tone, and the translation appeared above the hall. We wore veils for centuries. Humans took them away not by force, but by listening. If they can see us, maybe everyone can see each other too. The hall erupted in applause, not loud or chaotic, but long and sincere. For the first time, the Varathi stood in front of the galaxy without fear. A universe changed that night. Elias and Lyra walked hand in hand, one hand of flesh. One of light through the quiet halls of the Concord. The stars shone through the glass dome above them. "Do you realize?" Elias said softly. "We changed everything." Lyra laughed gently. "No, we didn't change everything. We just began something." Elias looked at her, at the shimmering light that was now more familiar to him than any human face. "I like the beginning." She floated closer. "Then let's keep walking." As they moved forward, the station lights dimmed to match the soft glow of her body. All around them, species who once feared each other now spoke, laughed, and listened. It started with one human who wasn't afraid to love the unknown.